just to make sure that she wasn't out-bullied, here comes a story about Hillary being a bully. What am I talking about? Well, stick around. We'll talk about that next on Get Right with Lenny McAllister, starting right
now. Get Right with Lenny McAllister.
Why, you rascally rabbit.
The way we help bring back America and we build the bridges and bring people together is by making sure we hold everybody accountable in a 360 fashion. So let me close with this. Yes, there is a change that we can believe in, but it will never come from a politician or a government program. We got to move away from the American Idol soundbite nature of politics and back to the American statesman of humble servant leadership that we used to see in politics. It is time to reel in government. It is time to roll out the era of the new American citizen. If we can continue to get some common sense governing from both sides of the aisle, we can finally get Americans through the recession, not just Wall Street. We need people that can change the crisis that we're seeing, and that's why, as a proud Republican, I go through the jail ministry. I speak to the kids in the streets, and so I'm never going to lay down being a Republican or being a conservative, just as much as I'll never lay down being a proud African American.
I feel like a black Republican. Money I got coming.
You know, when you start off a show, a podcast, a conversation, and you hit a note like that, and I put note in air quotes, if you will. When you hit a note like that as you're talking, number one, people look at you like you're just strange. And number two, it makes you wonder if you're going to actually be able to get through the segment, the period of time, the podcast, or whatever you have in front of you. So I'm asking for your prayers and your thoughts and your well wishes as we do this, and you know what we're doing. It's Get Right with Lenny McAllister, the podcast. You know the drill. You know where to find me on Twitter. It's LennyMcAllister. Like I said, I need your prayers and your well wishes to get through this today. No, I don't, but I want them anyway. Now, Facebook, you know the drill there. Those of you that have been here before, you know what's going on. 2 pages, one guy, you and me vibing back and forth. Now, if I really need the prayers more than normal, it's pretty simple. It's because of this. It's because over the last week or so, we've been talking about one person that's running supposedly, allegedly, worst kept secret in America almost. It's the second worst kept political secret in America. Of a guy that's running for the presidency in 2016 that has taken all types of liberties for political vendettas to be enacted to show people who's boss, to show people you don't mess with me, man. Now, not to be outdone, the worst political secret in America, or the person that's holding the worst political secret in America, has to come out and show that they're just as big of a bully, one that has a long memory and a willingness to enact a vendetta, even more so, at least just as much as Governor Christie. And lo and behold, if anybody needed more political reasons to give a jaundiced eye towards the modern day political legacy family, not the Bushes, that is the Clintons, here it is, the Hillary kill list, or some are saying hit list, or some are saying political expediency. You know I want your feedback on this. Twitter, Facebook, you know where to find me. Number one, anybody that says this is political expediency and that's it, and that's it, and that's the key phrase, and that's it, you're missing the absolute point. Is it politically expedient to understand who's going to be on your side and who's not going to be on your side from the outset, and who's likely to turn coat on you when things go bad? Because that's really what this list was about. This wasn't about people that did not give endorsements. This list, if you don't know what I'm talking about, an article came out. Let me retract. An article came out recently saying that the Clintons kept, if you will, a hit list of people that they wanted to remember, and what they did was they listed in a ranking of loyalty those that they can count on within the Democratic Party, those that they absolutely could not count on in the Democratic Party, and those, and this is the interesting part, this is the vendetta part, those that should have given their loyalty or did initially give their loyalty only to give it to the upstart young senator from Illinois that she underestimated. Which is, again, this is what's ironic about this whole kill list that Hillary Clinton has, and the fact that you're talking about her running in 2016, not being a second-term president by now, is the fact that none of this would be relevant if she would have taken Barack Obama seriously and she actually campaigned in Iowa like she should have done and not come in third place. But that's besides the point. We won't even get into that. We'll just let that be. We'll go back to the hit list. The interesting thing about this, and going back to my initial premise, anybody that says that this is just political expediency, is it political expediency? Yes. Is it just political expediency? No. And anybody that says that it is, and then turns around MSNBC, and then turns around and wants to run a story, or about 10,000, MSNBC, on Governor Christie, misses the whole point. Not just about Hillary Clinton or Chris Christie as individual politicians. The point that they miss is that this is what happens in politics in general, has been going on for quite a while, and definitely goes on in the modern construct of politics. And then from there, if you want to complain about we don't get anything from politicians, how come we can have a Congress that has a 10%, 9%, 8% approval rating, but get 90% of the incumbents reelected? This is why. You have basically, and the way 2016 is shaping up, ironically enough, it's big corporate politics, the Clinton machine, versus big bully politics with Governor Christie. And both of them run politics through you owe me and expectations and intimidation. Because let's be honest. What was the thing that people did not like Hillary Clinton in 2008? It wasn't that she wasn't qualified. It wasn't that she wasn't smart. It wasn't that she didn't have the experience. It was the fact that there was a bravado about her and Bill that came to the forefront in a very nasty, disengaging type of way in 2008. And once she got behind Barack Obama, that essence was just enough to keep her in second place the whole time, pretty much. And now you see that she's lining up her ducks once again, crossing T's and dotting I's and dotting T's and crossing I's and all that other stuff. She's going to take care of everything this time around. So the handwriting looks a hot mess. And then on the other side, you have Chris Christie doing the same exact thing. But their style of politics is so much of desk pounding and glaring and the gruffness that people respect sometimes but dislike and abhor after a while. And let's be honest. President Obama has done the same exact thing since he's been in office. He had the political numbers. He started taking a different tone. He went from the guy that everybody could relate to that shot ball with you to the guy that would give you an elbow right upside the head from the south side of Chicago. And Americans, if you look at the approval rating and you look at the economy and you look at how he talks to congressmen or he doesn't talk to congressmen, that air has gotten in the way. So people that say all this is just retribution, no pun intended, from the Republicans against the Democrat, which sounds vaguely familiar, Governor Christie. It's not that. This is a narrative that people should be wary of, regardless of whether they're looking at Christie or they're looking at the former Secretary of State. That's just your feedback. Again, appreciated, Twitter or Facebook. But that's how I'm looking at this. This is not a go away type of story that's supposed to basically counteract what's going on MSNBC and the liberal blogs and in some of the liberal publications that you see about Chris Christie, whether it's the possibilities of subpoenas and the possibilities of more people testifying or the possibility of more emails coming out or anything else. Those things can happen, and Chris Christie can drop out. That's not going to make the air from the Clintons go away. And let's just be honest, as much as Governor Christie needed a facelift in regards to his public image of being too much of a bully, being too rough around the edges, being too much of a tough guy, looking too much like a wise guy, having to lose some weight, and all the other stuff that people have said, well, if you're going to be a presidential candidate, he has to trim down, he has to be nicer, he has to be more humble, he can't be as rough around the edges, he can't be as blunt. You can say most of the same exact things about Mrs. Clinton. Got to be humanized. Got to look more like a mom and less like a Georgetown graduate. Got to get over the ice water veins persona, because it doesn't work for her. For some people, you got to look a little tougher. She has to look softer. She doesn't have to look like a woman. Let's not take the sexist tone of this. I can care less about having a woman president. You got women surgeons, you got women doctors, you got women presidents of banks, vice presidents of all different types of organizations, presidents of colleges. We can go on and on and on. I don't come from a generation where I look at a woman in a role and go, I can't believe there's a woman there. Why? She got a brain. She went to school. She's smart. She's talented. Why shouldn't she be? So I can care less about that. That's not my point when I say she needs to look softer. My thing with Mrs. Clinton is the fact that she, for far too often, has had this political, corporate essence about her. And that's not what people want in their president. They don't want bullies, which is why Christie's having a problem right now and is taking a hit right now. And he better be being truthful in all this. If he's truthful and he's transparent, he'll be okay. It's 2014, not 2016. He'll be all right. If he's not telling the truth, he is going to go away by mid-2015. He'll make the run anyway. He just won't be able to gain traction. He'll end up like John Huntsman for a different reason. He'll be the guy that could do the job, but no one took seriously anymore for one reason or another. Most likely this reason. But just the same, when it comes to the former Secretary of State, she had to change her image. She had to change how people interacted with her. She had to change that detached corporate political imagery that she has, that she's basically some cyborg that was generated 60 plus years ago for the sole purpose of being the first woman president of the United States. And truth be told, those that are independent voters that like Hillary but walked away from her in 2008, even in the Democratic Party, even though they were given a 2 to 3 year buildup that she was going to be the nominee in 2008, that's the reason why they walked away from her. People don't want that in a president. Truth be told, if you look at experience and you look at the cyborg model, two people should have beat Barack Obama. Mitt Romney was stiff at times, came across as cold and detached at times, but he had the chops when it came to looking at economics and being able to fix things, which, by the way, America is kind of what we need with our economy. Needed it since 2009, which would have made Mitt Romney a good vice presidential candidate in 2008 if he got along with the other cyborg that was seen as being a little too much like the Bushes, a little too much like a Republican, and not enough of his old maverick self 8 years prior, John McCain. If you look at people that were quote-unquote created to be in that position, yeah, you could say that about the Harvard Law Review president, but more than that, the guy whose dad actually ran for the presidency and was a governor of a state, and he was a governor of a state, you would think that that guy would be more the cyborg created for this role. And many argue that that was part of the reason why you had to back away from him in 2012. And just the same, John McCain, war hero, congressman, senator, had his period of time where he was blunt and to the point, had an all-American kind of family in some regards, you know, built up wealth, had a multicultural family, was known as a maverick for a period of time, angered the Republicans in some instances. So, I mean, hey, and, you know, he got a pretty cool background story when it came to being a POW. Now, of course, I know about the divorce and everything else and Cindy McCain and some of the stuff with that. It's fine. But generally speaking, and everybody has some of that. I mean, you got the Mitt Romney bullying, which is a made-up story. Well, not a made-up story, but it was just a purported, promoted story that just didn't need to be out there. And then, of course, we won't even go into what was dug up on President Obama, Senator Obama at the time. And I can tell you, living on the South Side, for every one story you heard about nationally, there were probably 5 to 10 stories that you didn't hear about nationally that were either part of the local media or the scuttlebutt of the South Side or the scuttlebutt of Chicago. I don't get into those. But with that said, you would think that if it's the cyborg model that people want, you got 2 people that should have beat Barack Obama. 2008, 2012. Heck, if you want to go even further and not even go into the general elections, you have 2 people that were kind of constructed for that. In the primary in 2008, 3 people, if you want to go into that. John Edwards was a former vice presidential nominee just 4 years earlier. Hillary Clinton was born to be the first woman president, and she's been gunning for that since she was probably 8 years old. And everything you see her doing, from selection of a husband, law school, her own career, supporting Bill through tough times. We won't even go into what those times were. We all know what they were. All of that stuff was geared to that goal. Joe Biden had been in the Senate since they were, first started printing $2 bills. I don't know. He had been there almost as long as Barack Obama had been alive. I remember saying that in 2008. He had been in the Senate by that point in time for 36 years. Barack Obama at the time was 48? Something like that, 47? He started in the Senate when Barack Obama, I believe, was a 3rd grader. And may not have even been living in the country at the time. I forget his biography. He may not even been in Hawaii when Joe Biden became a U.S. Senator. But talk about people that had stories that were constructed in a quote-unquote cyborg fashion, in a detached fashion, from a pure political resume, 2-dimensional. And that's the whole point I'm trying to make. 2-dimensional. For somebody to say, that's our person. That's our lady. That's our guy. Click. That's who I'm picking. Go do your thing. Be our president. Hillary Clinton can't allow that to happen again. She cannot fall into anything that looks like politics as usual. If she does, and a biracial, newly minted senator with a lot of popularity in social media, Cory Booker, comes along in the Democratic ranks and takes advantage of national media spotlights and notoriety and being eloquent and well-spoken and fairly well-liked from a northeastern state or a well-populated state. Cory Booker's her worst nightmare. All I'm saying is Hillary Clinton, when you hear about this hit list, it makes her look like the same 2-dimensional politician, corporate, pristine, ice water in the veins type of politico that Americans can't stand. You want to know why the Tea Party exists? Because many Tea Party candidates did not have that pedigree. You want to know why Barack Obama went from state senator to United States president literally in 4+ years? When he was speaking at the DNC in 2004, he was still a state senator. He went from state senator in 2004 in the fall when they were playing the World Series, mind you. So when the Boston Red Sox won their first World Series in 90 years, 86 years, he was still a state senator. He went from that during that World Series to president in less than 4.5 years. You want to know why? Because people are sick of corporate politicians coming in with a machine, ice water in the veins, 2-dimensional, detached from Americans. This hit list puts Hillary Clinton right back in that vein. And that's horrible. That is a very, very, very bad thing for Mrs. Clinton. And if you have Christie versus Clinton in 2016, as the polls are suggesting, and Lord knows we're 2 years away, and I said this previously. I've said it previously. 2 years prior to 2008, Barack Obama hadn't even announced that he was running for the presidency. People still didn't even know how to pronounce his name. That's just the honest to goodness truth. You saw what happened 2 years after that. So you just don't know. But if it is Clinton versus Christie, you have one person that looks like a 2-dimensional bully that will pound the desk and push his way around. And on the other side, you have somebody that's a corporate politician, built for this, has been focused on this for 60 plus years, was denied 8 years ago, and now is telling you, I have not forgotten what happened to me in 2008, Claire McCaskill. I have not forgotten about what happened to me, Kennedy family. And I have something for you and for all you Democrats that got in my way in 2008. And by the way, if you're on the fence, I got something for you too, because this is going to go down in 2016. Is that the image that Hillary Clinton needs to have? Everybody believed that she could make the 3 a.m. phone call. She doesn't need to look like that anymore. She looked like that in 2008, and it cost her the nomination. And here's a story a full 2 years before we really kick things into gear. As she, by the way, as I wrap up, is trying to raise money and gather support so she doesn't have to go through the same primary process. That's why she left the administration, other than trying to get away from the Benghazi mess. We'll talk about that later in the week. If she continues down this path of looking like a two-dimensional, cyborg, ice water in the veins type of politician, she runs the risk of a Cory Booker or somebody like Cory Booker coming in, being a feel-good candidate with some current executive or legislative experience, coming in and stealing her thunder and making her yesterday's news. And somebody that wants to use yesterday's politics as yesterday's news to try to win today's election. And if that narrative fits with a candidate and this type of activity continues from her camp, it's kind of like what Yogi Berra said. It's going to be deja vu all over again. What do you think? You know where to find me on Twitter, LennyMcAllister, Facebook, 2 walls, same name. You know I want your feedback. In the meanwhile, I will talk to you mañana. We will talk about MLK's real birthday and what we need to be doing in January, particularly as we go into February as well. In the meanwhile, you know I love you. Looking forward to talking to you soon. You have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. TCNGB. Take care and God bless.